Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Yves Nager. Hi, Yves. How are
Hi, Katie. I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you again.
you? Yes. Well, you are very far away. I mean, we usually talk when you're in Hawaii, but right now,
Right?
where are you?
I'm currently in South Korea,
Wow. And what are you doing?
uh, enjoying the country, enjoying the beautiful country. Uh, yeah, what I enjoy most about South Korea I would say, really the culture, the people. So visiting a lot of the temples. I really
Uh-huh.
like visiting the South Korean Buddhist temples. Amazing energy, very quiet, very pristine energy. So
Wonderful.
that's nice for going internal, and in the external world, I'm really enjoying a lot of great food here in South Korea. I always,
And
I
your
always
wife.
say it's not yes, and I always say it's not enough belly for all the amazing food, and of course enjoying. We are really really glad to be here. That's really a blessing that we can be back here together with my wife, Sunjung's family.
That's so cool. So
Yeah,
I want to let everyone know that I got to speak with Eves a couple years ago when was it 2 years ago already? Oh my gosh,
two and a
probably.
half,
Oh
two and a
wow,
half years.
wow.
We were together last time.
I benefited so much when he and his wife were here in Colorado, and we worked. He did some workshops and he presented things from his book, Hawaiian Rebirth. And so we're going to get to hear a little bit more about the Hawaiian Rebirth story and learn a little bit more because if you can hear Eve's accent, he's from Switzerland. So he's a world traveler, obviously. But Eves, why don't you explain to us? I mean, before people might not remember the story of Hawaiian Rebirth, but could you share a little bit with us about it?
Yeah, so that's usually question number one around my book, which I have here, the Hawaiian Rebirth, which is both out in English, and then it also came out a year ago in March. It came out in October 2008. That's when we saw each other last time,
Wow.
and then it came out 1.5 years later in German language as well in March, right?
Yes.
Right when the whole pandemic started. But question number one is always, okay, yeah, you have a Swiss background, you're from Switzerland. How does someone from Switzerland come to write a book called Hawaiian Rebirth? And so basically, that's in essence what this story was about. I really was gifted a absolutely new life, a new beginning in life back in 2008. That was 13 years ago when I went to Hawaii for the first time. And but yes, big blessing, big change. But before that, it was a really, really challenging time. A lot of losses of family members. Lost my dad, my both of my grandparents on my mother's side, and life became just very, very difficult and challenging.
Right.
And until a point, I literally was falling on my knees, was praying to God, and please show me the way. And then He showed me the way in a way, making my mom a messenger. And then it was my mother in Switzerland who told me that I should go to Hawaii. That she was the one, and I knew I have to leave from Switzerland. I have to go somewhere else for a change to get out of the current circumstances. But I was not really thinking about Hawaii. But it was my mother who basically gave me that gift and sent me to Hawaii. And
Wow.
so I ended up in Hawaii in March 2008. I absolutely didn't like it in the beginning. I was in Honolulu, kind of a city life, and I was thinking about moving on to Australia, where I initially wanted to go. But then I had this fantastic experience with a healer from the big island of Hawaii. He was flying to Oahu early April 2008, and he did Hawaiian healing on me. And then I opened my eyes and I was born into a new world. So that's in essence what the story was about. And then I was in love with Hawaii. Everything was falling into place like never ever before in my life. And then I was falling in love with Hawaii and the Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian people, and really went deep into spirituality, transformation, healing, self-help, all what was available back then.
Well, this is so much more than self-help. I mean, everything that you do has this beautiful mystical side to it that is it's magical. It's definitely at the core of who you are, more than self-help, like
Yeah,
personal development. Just do this, or here's your morning routine. This is much more spiritual, and it seems like it's much more rooted in indigenous knowing, like the ancient knowing, almost like you may be remembering past lives as you're working with all this. Would you agree?
absolutely. You got that absolutely right.
Yeah.
This was really like absolutely remarkable. I mean, I had this as soon as I was in Hawaii, even during that first phase I didn't like, when I start to go a little bit out of the city, certain places, and I was like blown away because I knew I was like, in a way, in this lifetime, I'm here for the first time, but I saw the scenery and like something very deep within me. I've been here before. I know this place, but it was all very mysterious. And we, in the very beginning, we talked about South Korea. That's another part of the world. And also, maybe not in these modern big cities, that kind of feels new and sometimes a little bit overwhelming for someone who is usually out in nature and not in the big cities. But especially when I go in the mountains here in South Korea or to the temples, there I also feel like something deep recognition of something ancient, but not just ancient from the culture, something ancient within me,
Exactly.
which kind of, which I remember, which comes back. So there are quite a few places around the world, but I would really say Hawaii and South Korea, other than Switzerland, where I grew up, are probably these three main places: Switzerland, Hawaii, and South Korea.
And you've been in
Where I feel it the
Colorado,
strongest.
where I live.
And
You've been here, so
yes,
so
yes,
and you love the mountains here too. Do you
yeah.
feel that you awaken to a bigger sense of yourself? That's what, when I think of the work that you've done,
Mm-hmm.
the book and the workshops, it's really a compilation of an awareness of us as a spiritual being, but it's a balance where you're very sensitive. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us very, you're very sensitive. When you say about being in a city or being in nature, that when you're sensitive, it's hard to be around a lot of people and all the chaos. But
Yeah.
did you feel that way before you had your awakening?
Yes. I mean, basically, yeah, in the core of, there is a certain thing, I was like in the core of my being, and I always point here,
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere, probably the seat of the soul. And there was something like essence within me. I already, as far back as I remember, as a little boy, and it felt always awkward. And I thought as I will grow older, that would change.
right,
But it actually, it has never changed, no matter if it was a little boy getting older, if it was a teenager, a young adult, but it was very confusing at that time. And it started to make sense once I had this initial awakening, rebirthing experience in Hawaii. Then I started to really realize what this is all about. In a way, my essence, the core of my being. And before that, it always more felt like a certain burden in my life.
right,
I kind
right.
of didn't like to be like this. I didn't like to be this sensitive, to be vulnerable in this world. Of course, many times you hear, especially as a man, Men need to be strong.
Right. Especially in
All
Switzerland.
these belief systems.
Right. Right.
And generally, I think in the Western cultures, and the way you should be stronger, don't be so sensitive, don't be so emotional, all of that. So don't, and then realize, and then of course you try to fit in, you try to be different.
Yes.
But you cannot deny the essence of who you are. Well, and if you do, what it ultimately does, it leads you to illness, to depression, to burnout experiences, which I experienced tremendously along my path.
Right.
And so there is no other choice ultimately than really connecting with our true essence and live according to this, no matter what it means, no matter what part in the world you are, and no matter what other people tell you. You need to ultimately find your own truth and live accordingly to that. And I think that's one portion of why we are here, to discover who we are, and then to start to share our gifts and talents for us, first of all, for us, and then for the people we meet in our lives. And then maybe as we go along the journey, maybe like I did with my book, then start to share it with a larger audience, if you have the calling. However, writing a book, going public, doing the workshops and all these offerings, especially when you're a sensitive person and kind of you like to be a little bit more for yourself. I would say I'm a very introvert person in the core of my being. Then you come into a new form of living. It's being more extrovert, more sharing, being more around people. And that can be sometimes challenging, because as soon as you become public, yes, you have, I would say, majority of the people who get to know me, who get to know about my works, they appreciate it. But you're always going to have a few people who dislike what you share. They dislike your message.
Yes.
And I think that's in its core is maybe also something a lot of people who have their awakening now. We have like mass awakening on the planet happening right now. Yes. What I experienced, what you experienced, many of us experienced a decade, maybe 20, 30 years ago. This is now happening on a big scale. And I think a lot of people are getting ready to share, but there are maybe a lot of people are also scared to show up publicly, because it means you're gonna get rejection from certain people, and that's not easy to take.
I want to share one of the things that I know from knowing you is I think that you have grown and are so authentic. And that's part of this whole Hawaiian rebirth opportunity that people have to learn from you, is that even if you're sensitive, once you integrate and are authentically comfortable with who you are, you start to love yourself and you show up as that, all those fears of what other people think and do don't matter, because you're doing it as an expression of you, not really, you're doing it as a gift to others, but it's really, you have to express yourself. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you don't, if you hold back, if you hold back your essence, and if you don't, then you get sick.
Right.
You get depressed, and you burn out. Because ultimately, once we discovered or rediscovered our essence, our gift, our talents, we have, I think it's a God-given gift to us, and it's like flowing into us, but then it somehow needs to get out of us. If you hold it too long within ourselves, it's not serving ourselves, and it's not serving souls around us or the world. We have to share the gift, and especially nowadays, in these times you're in, if you're looking back at what tremendous shift is going on this planet, basically since the pandemic started, good 1.5 years now, I mean, it's very, very important that we share with others and that we help our fellow travelers along their journey as best
Right.
as we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they are, I mean, in the oneness mentality, we are all one anyway. So the compassion and the love that you show for yourself is expressed outwardly. But I wanted to go back to this because I think I want people to understand the benefit of working with you, because what we're saying is you're a man of the world, you speak multiple languages, you are very interested in ancient cultures and integrating them into usable forms for
Right.
people for right now. But it's what I want them to really understand is this soul retrieval that you experience. And in a way, what you do for others is that integration and bring who they really are, the gift of who they really are to them, so that they can experience the joy, the fearlessness. Because I think this time period, the biggest threat to people finding themselves is fear. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where I see what your processes are, the resources that you've come up with, and the your experience. By you sharing it, you're sharing as a hero. You did your hero's journey, and you're showing
Right.
others that their hero's journey is just around the corner, and they'll get a hit whether they speak English or they speak in German. That they'll get a hit that this there's something here for me. This isn't just me watching someone. They'll experience it. Don't you agree?
Yes. Yes. We did. Yes, absolutely. Because I think you're pointing this out wonderfully, and I think what you just said. So one thing is this whole journey, how I was led on the journey. So I try to share very personally, vulnerable, authentic, all of that. That's my journey. By sharing that, inspire others. This is not about my story. I'm
Right.
telling that story in order to encourage, to inspire others to
Exactly.
share their journey with number of for themselves, like I said earlier, for others, to inspire others, and to make a change in this world. So that's one element. You can start by yourself, and then, as you mentioned, because with this journey, I've been traveling a lot. After I got together with Eunjung, that's
Uh-huh.
that's the reason why I'm in South Korea. My wife Eunjung, she's originally from South Korea. Her family is here, and so we have been traveling a lot. We've been to 40 countries, and when it was still easy to
Yes.
travel, and
Yeah.
we really like when sometimes very quick, and we sometimes wondered why are we going so quick. We just could stay longer, but now we kind of realize, if you're looking back, we did it as long as it was possible to travel this way, which is way more difficult nowadays. But
Right.
what I want to say here, what we actively were seeking out the whole time, we didn't travel like the majority of people. We
Yeah.
went to all these countries to really connect with the local culture, the local history, to learn from ancient traditions, to learn the indigenous way. And wherever we were in the world, many
Right.
places in Europe, many places in the US, in India, in Asia, and all of that became like big influence. And there are certain core teaching, a certain core wisdom you learn by traveling this way.
Right.
But then it's still, you could say, it stays like very out there, and it's hard to grasp because most of the times it's also has to do with language.
Right.
And when we go, let's say, India, though we have a lot of this true knowledge is ingrained, like you could say, in Sanskrit. Or here, if in South Korea, if you go to the South Korean temples, these monks, they don't speak English. So how do you learn from them? It's I would say a big one is just you go there. It's by feeling. It's feeling the vibration, soaking in the vibration. That's with closed eyes. But if you open your eyes, it's through observation. Very precisely study when they're performing their rituals in the temples. There's a very precise movements, very precise way how they perform the rituals. And so it's observing, it's absorbing these energies. And I think that's one of the Hawaiian ways is also you observe and basically you shut the mouth. So first it's you ask questions later. So you don't go and interrupt the ritual to a, let's say you go to India in a temple and then you ask the whoever is performing there, why are you doing this? Or I'm not interrupting the Korean monk in the process. If there is a chance afterwards, then I can start to ask deepening questions. So that's how I learned basically over the past decade. Probably most from the Hawaiian culture because I visited there the most. I've been living there now for the majority of the past 5 years. And then once all of this came together, then I think there is a certain calling for me to start to make it practical for people. And yes, I mentioned the self-help, the coaching, the self-help field, transformation, and then, kind of make it accessible for people, by, I would say, distilling the essence into certain steps. So here are certain questions you can ask yourself. Here are certain steps you can follow. So I think that's the methodology a lot of people are doing in transformation, self-development, life coaching in this area. But all of that is based basically on these ancient traditions. And so I try to make it accessible to people who don't have the chance or didn't have the chance to travel as much to these places as Eunjung and I were blessed to do.
Well, you embodied the spiritual teachings. That's the difference than somebody just reading a book and reading a book and then saying they gave me a checkoff sheet. I do this, and this. But what you've done is you embodied it, and then you are somehow you're an expert at explaining it or helping others and feel it, because knowledge, it really isn't about your brain, it's about your heart. And this whole time period is connecting this one and the one in the Dantian, and being fully embodied with your soul in this body. It's soul body fusion. But what I like about what you've done really truly is I feel that it is so much more rich and usable because of the way you've embodied it. Because you're not coming from ego. This isn't like a teacher, a professor saying, like if you took Qigong classes, the master would tell you this is it and you have to follow it exactly. That isn't how you work with people. You help them really make this journey from here to here and experience it. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I say, I was at this point, okay, certain strategies, certain steps where people can get started. So yes, it's giving some sort of advice, but the way I try to transform the message or the methods I use or the tools or the practices, it's ultimately, these are certain guide points along their journey. This is the direction you can go. These are certain checkpoints you should pass as you go along the journey. But ultimately, the way I guide people is that they come up, I'm not saying, oh, I figured everything out. No, it's like I figured out certain things, but ultimately it's asking the people the questions that they find their own answers.
Yes.
That they found their own, that it's always based on getting in touch with their essence, that they are walking this path in their very unique way. Because yes, I can say I walked that path, I went down a certain route, but there are so many in a way who are, you mentioned professor, or so many, I mastered this thing and now I figured it out, and now these are the 5 steps, I've done these 5 steps, and now you need to do exactly the same 5 steps exactly in the same way I did. From my point of view, this is not really gonna work, because if I exactly follow that methodology exactly in this precise way, someone is teaching me who I am becoming, I'm in a way becoming a copy of that person who is teaching me instead of becoming myself.
Exactly.
And we all have to do it in a very unique, individual way. Although I would say the road to go there are certain checkpoints or certain crossroads where we can go in a particular way, but yet it's still highly individual.
Well, I think what I've seen is that you do meet the person wherever they are and help them, and it is a journey from here to your heart, and that's why I was saying it's an embodiment, or it's a personal relationship with yourself that may have been missing. There may have just been one concept that you have, one viewpoint that you have of your life that needs to be adjusted so that you can live a bigger life or happier life, or I think in a lot of cases fearlessness. Again, I'm going to keep bringing that up because that seems to be that what everyone needs, and the idea of co-creating with the universe at a high level. You guys say not only has Yves done this beautiful book and these workshops, but he also, when he was in Colorado, he was doing these fantastic maps of the mountains. And he was, but I mean, that, how many people in the world could do that? And so, I mean, and you weren't afraid to go up in the mountains and try to figure out where to draw all that. I mean, anyway, I don't want to go off topic, but I think one of the things your gift is you can help other people map out their life, or map the distance from here to here for someone else, not just the mountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
we can, but you know, when I've just briefly, as you opened that, I'm very passionate about this map. So I just briefly, I don't want to talk about the process, how I do these maps, but when we go out, when you go for a hike out in nature, in an area a little bit more remote, in order that you don't get lost, you need to have some sort of whatever map is provided, whatever is out there. I mean, there are better resources nowadays than several years ago. That's kind of a base map you hold. You have a certain base map. You see there is a certain peak, or there is a certain river. Here is maybe a trail. As you go through the terrain, what you're doing, you're creating your own unique map. Right. Because as you walk through the same terrain, let's say a group of 100 people walking through the same terrain, depending on how we perceive life, depending on where we focus our attention, I would say everyone is creating that map of a certain landscape, go through. If we come back, let's say we all go out in the wilderness for 2 days. We come back and we compare the maps we created. We're going to have 100 different maps, but ultimately showing the same terrain in a very unique way. And how beautiful is that? Right. I really like this symbology of a map.
Me too.
Expressing it's showing it. And what I like about the maps, one thing is you're out in the field, so you're basically taking in information. But then the second part, is to draw the map in a way that it looks beautiful. So I would say there you have like, then that's the artist coming in. And there is a part within me, yes, explore it out in nature, fearlessness, having the courage. When we look back at Colorado, I mean, in terms of wildlife, that's the most, in a way, tough environment, you know, and you can have some rattlesnakes, mountain lions, moose, all of that. And I had, when I did a large map in Colorado, I was always, you know, there were a lot of elk in the terrain.
Yeah.
We were most of the time okay with each other, but I always heard about this, you know, the moose are the most dangerous. You need to really watch. And I was out there for 40 days in the wilderness, 40. And I had an encounter with a moose on my second last day, very close. And then, once you have the encounter, you just need to run as quick as possible away and dodge and hide, because there is no way by screaming and making yourself big, you're gonna win that battle. So, but I think when we bring it back away from me to people watching us, the show, yes, you go out, of course you need to prepare. If you go on a quest, on a journey, you need to prepare, get the information, get the map, what are potential risks, what are potential obstacles, and you can always learn from others who went to that terrain or who went down the path before. And this can be, I can be one of these persons, there can be many other persons, there can be books, many resources. Nowadays, you find so much information in the internet. It's basically limitless. But once then it's about, as I said before, it's creating your own map, it's writing your own book, it's writing your own life story. And once you have that, then it becomes an art to create it in such a way that it looks beautiful to you, and then in a way that it becomes beautiful to present to those people who are walking this path with you as well.
That's beautiful. Yes, I encourage people to read your book and to learn how they could they could they could grow and experience themselves as a divine being, and see what their gifts are. But let's go back to your book for a second, because I know you wanted to explain aloha to us, if you could. Would you mind explaining it to us?
Yes, aloha.
Aloha.
Question to you, what does aloha mean to you, Katie?
Well, okay, so usually it means hello or goodbye, but it's a very happy sound. I'm sure that there's a much better, mahalo, aloha. I don't know. I only know a few words. I've been there several times, but I don't know the language.
Yeah, and so one thing I like to do when I do a workshop or a seminar around Hawaii or aloha, that kind of one of the first things, go around the group, what does mean aloha to you? And then people are, well, I don't know, or what you said, or different things. And then the beautiful thing, you let people share, you listen to them, and just by talking about it, there is a certain vibration, energy coming in that room without giving any definition. And then the most beautiful thing to say is, people are, was I right? Maybe she was better than me. Maybe he had the right answer everyone wants. And it's the great news are, all of you were right. All of you were right. So that's basically, whatever your definition is of aloha, you can basically not really go wrong. But of course, there is like some sort of official definition of the meaning of aloha. And I, of course, would like to mention it here. Okay. But before I go into more depth, there is a really beautiful description of a Hawaiian wisdom keeper. I went on a vision quest. It's a decade ago, July 2011. I traveled over all the Hawaiian islands. within 3 weeks.
Wow.
And of course, very, very proactively seeking out all the sacred sites, the Hawaiian temples, they're called heiau, going to all these places to meditate, to do the rituals, the ceremonies, but also really to seek out this local teachers, you know, who are teaching this aloha, where I can learn from. And I met them in form of human beings, in form of animals, in forms of spirit guides. And this, I met the one I want to talk briefly about now, was in human form. At that time, he was in his early 70s, the island of Molokai, which is referred as the friendly island. Every island has a nickname, Molokai, and the Molokai has a population of about 7,000 people. And it's the island which is the least developed for tourism, which means it's, we to read the true Hawaiian spirit probably find it the most on the island of Molokai. I don't know how it is nowadays. I think a lot hasn't changed during that time. And so I was guided, synchronicity, following the heart, all of that. And I'm meeting this Hawaiian wisdom keeper in the Halawa Valley of the island of Molokai. That's at the east. And his name is Pilipo Solatorio. And so he's in this valley, and how we were led together, all of that, I'm not sharing it here. Who is interested, how we met, it's in the book, okay. But I asked him how, we had a beautiful conversation, connected, we were together for 5-6 hours that day. And then I asked him, of course, a few questions throughout the conversation. And how would you describe the essence of aloha? The essence from your point of view, from your experience of being in the spirit of aloha, of teaching it to other people for basically for a lifetime. And he said something very beautiful. That's for me the most beautiful definition. And you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's sharing, and listen to every word, and also listen, you, Katie, and everyone listening to this call or watching it, notice how you feel in your body when you hear these words.
Okay.
I speak it slowly. Sharing the happiness of the breath of life. Or sharing the gift of happiness, of the happiness of the breath of life. That's what he told me. And it's and for me it was very profound to hear that. And that's for me the definition, the shortest definition I like to tell to people.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, but now let's look a little bit deeper. Okay. What's ingrained in the aloha, and just to front load that, so to speak, is each letter in the word aloha has a certain meaning. The A, L, H, and A. And in order to get this really correct here, 100%, I'm still, I would like to read it from the book. And so I read it here. In this description, I read that a revered keeper of the secrets of Hawaii, her name was Auntie Pilahipaki. She became one of my heroes. She passed away, but I really hope we will meet each other in the afterlife one day. I would like to meet Auntie Pilahipaki for sure. So she tasked several of her students to be prepared, that was a long time ago, for the future when the world would be in collapse. I think this time is pretty much here. It's collapsing and something new is emerging. She spoke of the time when Hawaii would have the remedy to save the world. That's what she said. And the remedy was, what was the remedy, Katie?
Aloha.
Aloha. And it was at the Governor's Conference in 1970, she introduced modern Hawaii to a deeper understanding of aloha. And here we go,
Okay.
what it is. A, it's the first A is I do my best to pronounce it as best as I can in the Hawaiian language. Akai. Akai. This means kindness or grace to be expressed with tenderness. That's the A. L, lokahi, meaning unity, unbroken, to be expressed with harmony. O, olu, olu, meaning agreeable, gentle, to be expressed with pleasantness. H, ha, aha, meaning humility, empty, to be expressed with modesty. And the second A in Aloha, aho nui, meaning patience, waiting for the moment, to be expressed with perseverance. So that's what's within Aloha. And
Wow.
isn't that beautiful?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like when people say namaste, and it's the same kind of feeling, the depth of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. And so for me to go a little bit deeper with it, yes, I basically even that now you know a little bit more, but we hardly, in a way you could say, now we start to get a little bit, because yeah, now we know Akai and how what I like in essence, that's what we heard. It's a certain quality, a certain value, a certain philosophy behind it. So there are a lot of philosophies, but and way to live, but what it gives a very precise direction. How do we express? Remember,
Yeah.
there's a certain
Kindness.
quality
Mhm.
to be expressed with, and so we have a certain deeper understanding a little bit.
Yes.
But and so is of course who express it the most beautifully is when you go to Hawaii and when you have the chance to spend some time with a local Hawaiian cultural practitioner, which I'm not. I didn't grow up in that culture.
Right.
I wouldn't say I can teach about Hawaiian culture. Never. I can learn. I consider myself as a lifelong student of the Hawaiian culture and share it with readers, with people who are listening to me speaking the best I can. That's my aim, just to play my little part, my little contribution of sharing the spirit of Aloha in the world. And one thing that was I never forget that when I was in the process of writing my book, a person who helped me edit the German part of my book, she said, yeah, so but was a great question. It was a really, really deep question, a great one. Was so, yeah, but you know, it's all about Hawaii. So then the whole world has to go to Hawaii in order to learn about the spirit of Aloha. And my answer to that is, no, you don't necessarily need to go in person to Hawaii in order to learn about the spirit. You can learn the essence of what it is and you can share it no matter where you are in the world, no matter if I'm in Switzerland, no matter if you're in Colorado, no matter if I'm here in South Korea, you can share the essence of what Aloha is about everywhere.
Exactly.
And with all life forms, and that's the core message.
And the
around
cat
Aloha.
keeps going in and out.
Yes.
The
Yes.
cat loves you.
Yes.
The cats
Yeah.
are in the book too.
Yes. Yes.
Just to let everyone know. So
Yeah.
Yves, what I wanted to also let people know is that you've done a series on YouTube that can help people after they've read the book, or even with the book, they can get a feeling for the lovely expression and the feeling that you have for Hawaii. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and so yes, I currently have about this. It's in development right now. This is a 10 parts series, and I call it the Aloha Summer Series. So now, how did this series come to be? So we returned back home to Hawaii early this year, and then I really went. As soon as I was back, I really started to go deeper and deeper into the question. I did a lot of research. What was around the question? What does it mean to be Hawaiian? So, and there I wrote on a really. This is the longest piece I've ever wrote. There's a really, really long new chapter, additional section to the already existing book, and I went really deep into that, really Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian history, covered all of that. And but then, okay, people, I learned a lot. What does it mean? Readers learn more about Hawaii. I think people who read this, what does it mean Hawaiian, to be Hawaiian, when they go visit Hawaii, I think they are more conscious and aware and mindful.
Right.
They have a different perspective. The way they go take, but also to bring, to give back to the Hawaiian culture, very, very important, not just to take away. And then I thought kind of, okay, now I'm kind of done. And then whenever you think you're done, you realize there is more. And then I came to the point, no, I really want to go deeper around this spirit of Aloha and just go deeper on everything I just mentioned out of this definition of what's contained in the Aloha. And then I came to the point, okay, a beautiful way how I can start to share the message is not just by writing, it's also by creating some videos. So here I go, me, the basically introvert person who likes to hide behind writing the book. And now here I go down a whole different route. I start to show up on video and record some videos. So I kind of started to develop the concept and had these videos ready. Speaking the videos, this was very briefly before we left from Hawaii. And now what I'm currently, so the videos are pre-recorded, both in English and both in German. And now what I'm doing on a weekly basis, I'm halfway in the series. So I covered the first 5 parts. I'm going deeper and deeper with each of these principles. So it's giving a definition, it's telling some personal stories every now and then giving people who watch the videos or people who are reading the blogs, then gives them very concrete steps they can follow how to, in a way, start to live that more deeply and share it with the world.
Perfect.
And one core element, which is basically at the bottom of the foundation of these videos, towards the end of the video, I'm always sharing a new short breathing exercise. And so what people see by going through, they learn about Hawaii. I'm speaking outside in nature on purpose to show the beauty, to bring in the background. You hear the ocean, you hear the birds, so you can feel a little bit more of this island of Kauai other than the contents. And so it's a little bit of input. And then at the end, in a way to integrate it, to absorb it, I always share some very simple but highly effective breathing exercise. And it's always a different one every week. So right now, as we speak, I'm halfway in. I covered up to the Olu Olu. And now we go deeper and deeper as we go along. And I do it in a very interactive way. So not in the videos, but in the written blogs. I'm always encouraging people to send me comments or questions on anything I've presented so far. And based on that, basically every week, I pick one of these questions or comments I receive, and then I go a little bit deeper. So it becomes a more interactive exchange with the audience watching it.
Well, so
And
they
so
actually
we
can use it. It's not just watching,
yes,
it's not edutainment, it's actual teaching.
right.
Perfect.
Yes, and I'm learning, you know, yes, I'm teaching to a certain degree, but through the interaction, people who are watching it or reading it, they're teaching me something too.
Yeah.
I see I'm both a teacher and a student. It's always in an exchange.
Me too.
And so we're halfway in. And so everyone who sees it, you can rewatch what I already presented, reread what I already wrote, but really take this chance. Now there are still 5 more coming. If you want to have a direct interaction, if you have any question, take that chance. And I probably might pick your question or your comment and write another piece on that as I go along the series until the end of until the end of August. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So Yves, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up soon, but yes. I want to make sure that people will put in the information. We'll put how best to connect with you and how to find your videos on YouTube. But what is, so if people want to work with you or want to follow your world travels and learn, because I think watching and experiencing you over the years, which I have, I just see you deepening and deepening, and it's beautiful to watch. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners here are going to want to follow you. So what is the best way for them to find you?
So first of all, mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much for your welcome. Kind words, for expressing loving kindness towards me. One of the principles here. So yeah, but to answer the question, I think the best way is going through my website. It's yvesnager.com, YVESNAGER.com, and then in order to find the latest updates, just go on the website and you will see blogs, and just go on blogs, and in the blog section you will find the latest updates to the Aloha summer series. And then I have a website to the book, which is Hawaiian, a little bit closer here, HawaiianRebirth.com, which has both English section and a German section. Then, of course, the videos, they are going on YouTube. So if I'm just on YouTube, either put in my name, Yves Nager, or Hawaiian Rebirth, you will find me. Right. And then I'm both on Facebook and on Instagram. Just look for my name. And there probably I do this blogs and videos every now and then, right now more frequently on a weekly basis, but of course always on Facebook or on Instagram. Maybe every other day I try to I share from wherever I am traveling right now about my experiences I have right now, every now and then sharing inspirational quote. So there I interact a little bit more frequently. So good. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or through my website. And everyone, or by following Katie's conscious Katie, business zone, yeah. Conscious business zone. Yeah. But I want to make sure everyone sees that this knowledge that Yves is sharing is available in German and in English. And yes. he is really bringing this whole world ideas, all of these ancient practices, he's making them usable for us today. And that, I believe, is a big part of our new journey to back to wholeness and to harmony. And so Yves his journey and he's been so generous with sharing all his knowledge and his experience so that it can help all of us. I really want to thank you for that. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
next.
Yeah, I can maybe what's gonna be next. I will mention that. So one thing was with this recording videos, I would call it by now, it's a law, I call it a love-hate relationship. I'm still very uncomfortable, and these videos are far from being perfect, but I think by still keep doing it, by putting myself out there, one thing one of my hidden intentions, maybe I'm saying it for the first time, verbalize it this way, is also to encourage others as well to share their videos, because when we look this transformational scene or group, there are many well-known speakers. They have done this for years. They're perfectly crafted videos. They are masters of presenting. I'm far away from that, but don't let, you see them and like, oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to speak like him or her.
Yeah, right.
I'm never gonna be there. And as inspirational it can be for us to watch them speaking, it can also hold us back.
Intimidating.
No, I don't want to do. And yes, intimidating, that's the word. And so I just want to encourage all of you watching this, go out there, give it a try, share your essence, and you don't need to be perfect.
Actually, no. I always tell people to not be afraid. First of all, we're in a digital world, so if you mess up, you can just get rid of it. But second of all, is that you're more trustworthy when you aren't perfect. That right. Being like a newscaster or being scripted, that doesn't feel authentic at all. It doesn't feel truthful. And I think people are looking now as people are waking up, they're trying to figure out who do they trust, and they can feel it in their gut. They can feel it in their body that, ooh, that doesn't feel right anymore. So I think I just want everyone to take advantage of all the generosity of what Yves has offered for you, and to really spend some time on his YouTube channel or on his blog and start to listen to this, because I think deep down it's going to be such a gift for everyone. So with that,
thank you, Katie.
Thank you. So I think with this, I'm afraid we have to sign off. But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you so much, everyone, for watching us today.
Yes.
Aloha.
We'll talk again soon. Oh yeah, aloha.
Yes.